a while back, I remember, because I referred to it as the getting out of Dodge book of the Bible. Exodus just means leaving, fleeing, getting out. They're moving. You hear somebody's got a mass exodus going on, you know what they're talking about. You know, in the earlier part of the chapter, the book rather, we find that God speaks to Moses through the burning bush. Tells him he's going to use him to bring the children of Israel out of bondage and take them to the promised land. Well, now they've come out, and they've come across the Red Sea, and they are coming. Moses is going at this time up on the mountain to receive the commandments of God. And as Moses goes, you know what they say, when the mouse is away, or when the cat is away, the mice will play. Well, as Moses goes and is gone for a while, receiving the commandments from God and instruction of God, the children of Israel get a little antsy, and they start doing, I guess, their own thing. And you know, my parents used to tell me, and especially my dad, whoever it is that you're around, you have a big chance to become like that.
Amen.
And so the friends that you choose, you know, whatever it is that they do, and we know if you follow psychology at all, or if you just walk through this world with your eyes open, I guess you can figure this one out, that there are followers and there are leaders. And you can see that in young children, even as they begin to grow. You watch a child that has 2 or 3 kids lined up at home in a bedroom, sitting on the bed, and she's teaching them. Well, you usually know if she's the one directing whatever it is, or whether it's they're teaching or preaching, directing the choir, or whatever, instructing. Look at them, you probably think, well, they're probably going to be a leader. They're somebody that has that quality, or that trait, or that personality, and that makeup about them. Well, the children of Israel, being for years in bondage, I'm sure they didn't like the work in Egypt. It's one thing if you don't like your work and it pays well. You know, most people that complain about their jobs and never leave their jobs, why do they not leave their jobs? They got a car payment, a house payment, a kid payment or 2. They got a lot of payments, and if their job pays well, they sometimes feel like they're stuck because it's bringing in the income, but it's not really what they want to do. So I don't think the children of Israel really enjoyed the work that they did in Egypt, but I would say there are some of the other things. If they were allowed to partake like the Egyptians, they probably would have allowed the flesh to take over and would have had a good time. And so they no doubt watched. They were a part of that society to a certain respect. They probably saw everything around them. You can use, and this is an illustration that maybe too harsh of an illustration, but this world around us, if we're not careful as the church, we can see it, and it can have an influence on us as well. And so here they are. They're God's people, but they are in bondage, and as they're in bondage, they're seeing what's happening there in Egypt. Now they flee Egypt, and God gives a deliverer, and they've already started with this exodus. They've crossed now the Red Sea, and here they are. God calls Moses. He's up on the mountain receiving the commandments. Aaron, the assistant pastor, is down with the people. And as he's down with the people begin to say, what in the world is Moses? What in the world's taking him so long? Chapter 32, verse 1. And when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mount, the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron and said unto him, Up, make us gods, which shall go before us. For as for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we wot not what is become of him. And Aaron said unto them, Break off the golden earrings which are in the ears of your wives and your sons and your daughters, and bring them unto me. I don't preach against wearing earrings. I don't wear one, but my wife wears them. I don't preach against that, but I'm thinking, rats, what if they didn't have earrings? They couldn't make a golden calf. Yeah. But they did have it anyhow. And so he says, break them off, bring them to me. And what does he do? They mold, they form a golden calf, an idol that they can worship. And it's not funny, but as I look at this, for years it's been, I don't know how popular it is now, but for years one of the biggest, most popular television programs is called American Idol. Yeah. I'm not criticizing that, but it's like we always need something to worship. God made us in his image, and he made the angels, of course, to worship him. He wanted a relationship with us, but he does expect that we worship him. And Satan's job is to always get us sidetracked, always chasing something else. He wants people that get scared when they get caught in something, or they're afraid, they're sick, their finances are bad, their kids are acting up, and maybe, okay, God, I'll walk straight now, please help me, and God's helping them, and things are going good, and if you're not careful, they relapse into something. Well, that's all of us at a point, and that's what the children of Israel did. They wanted out. God sent a deliverer. Hey, we don't like this guy. Well, too bad. You're going to have to take him and go with him. And so once he led them through, man, they began to sing praises when they came through the Red Sea. Now, here they are saying, we don't even know what's happened to this guy. Mm-hmm. And so Aaron, they get together and they make this calf, right? Now you can read this for yourself, but I like verse 7. It says, and the Lord said unto Moses, go, get thee down, for thy people, which thou brought out of the land of Egypt, have corrupted themselves, and they have turned aside quickly out of the way which I have commanded them, that they have made them a molten calf, and have worshipped it, and have sacrificed thereunto, and said, these be thy gods, O Israel, which have brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. And the Lord said unto Moses, I have seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people. We know God knows everything. God saw this was coming. I get a kick out of this, verse 7. I don't know if Moses did or not, but God says unto him, Moses, go and get thee down for thy people. He didn't say my people, who are called by my name. He said your people, your type, your people, your folks, those people you're leading. Like he has the ability to control them or something, but he says they've corrupted themselves and turned quickly out of the way. And then Moses questions God a little bit and asks God some questions. But then we see as he comes down, in verse 19, let's jump to there. God had written, verse 16, the writing was the writing of God graven upon the tables. And so here he has these stones, these commandments, and it comes down. In verse 19 it says, and it came to pass, as soon as he came nigh into the camp, that he saw the calf and the dancing, and Moses' anger was hot, and he cast the tables out of his hands and brake them beneath the mount. And he took the calf which they made and burnt it in the fire, and ground it to powder, and strewed it upon the water, and made the children of Israel drink of it. And Moses said unto Aaron, what did this people unto thee, that thou hast brought so great a sin upon them? Do you remember Moses saying to God through the burning bush, I can't go because I can't speak well. I have a speech impediment. I have trouble. And a lot of times people will say that. I wonder, could we not fit in everywhere else but the work that God has for us to do? Sometimes that's a shame, but that's how it is. Hey, would you like to get up and sing karaoke somewhere? Sure. Hey, would you like to come to church and sing for us? Nah, I'm not very good at that. I'm just saying, sometimes those kind of things happen. Yeah. And here, for whatever reason, he makes the excuse. And God sees Aaron coming, and he says, there's your brother, and I know he ain't got any problem speaking, so you can take him with you. It'd have been better off for Aaron or for Moses probably if he would have said, I'll go and take care of it myself. Yeah. But he didn't. He took his brother. And so he says to his brother, what in the world did you allow them to do to you to make this happen? What a mess. I mean, you see everything that they've been through. If you've read this story and you've heard it for years, you know everything they've been through. How Moses goes to Pharaoh and he says, God said to let my people go. And Pharaoh says, who is this I am? Who is this God you serve? I don't know him, and I'm not letting you go. And finally, all this stuff takes place. Aaron sees it too. He's not blind. He knows what's happened. He sees it too. Moses says, what they do to you, to turn you this way, to make you do this. And Aaron said, let not the anger of the Lord wax hot, of my Lord wax hot. Thou knowest the people, that thou art set on mischief. And let's just throw everybody under the bus, right? Whose fault was it? Well, we know it wasn't God's, and we know it wasn't Moses'. From there on down, everybody gets a little bit of the fault. Everybody gets a little bit of the blame. Aaron does, everybody on down. Well, yes, they are human. And yes, this is an Old Testament book. I understand that. I do understand that. But the Old Testament isn't done away with in the New. It is set for our admonition, for our teaching, and for our learning. I'm not going to get to heaven if I don't build a golden calf, if I don't worship anything out in the world. That's not the reason I'm going to heaven. I'm going to heaven because I'm saved by grace through faith. There it is a gift of God, not of works, lest any of us should be able to boast today. Yeah. So I got that part, but I am saying that we still need to learn from their mistakes. Amen. And it's the best thing about people's mistakes. They're not yours. But there's a reason to watch people as well. More so than just learning what to do. But sometimes you watch people close enough, you'll learn what not to do. Amen. As a pastor, as a young minister, when I first started preaching, I found that out. And when I would counsel with men who hadn't preached, I've been preaching since 1991. I set a group of fellows down one time that I pastored as we talked, and I said, we're just having a conversation here, but let me tell you, you watch every move that man makes in or out of the pulpit. If you see something that doesn't work for him, you go the opposite direction. Don't do what he's done if it's not brought any glory to God. Aaron wants to cast the blame on them. God already said they were stiff-necked people. And here's what he says, for they said unto me, make us gods, which shall go before us. For as for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we wot not what has become of him. And I said unto them, whosoever hath any gold, let them break it off. So they gave it me, and I cast it in the fire. And there came out this calf. What? Oh, gee whiz. What a story. He tells the truth. Right up until the time that we just threw it in the fire, and out came this calf. He just kind of walks out and says, now worship me. How ridiculous is that? But he's telling that to Moses, and when Moses saw that the people were naked, for Aaron had made them naked unto their shame among their enemies. Now this is what I was talking about. This degradation that's going on among these people, these relationships that they're having just in the presence of this idol that they have built. They've learned this stuff from the people they were around. Amen. They learned this stuff from being in Egypt. Now, our bent, our natural bend as human beings isn't bent to love God. We are taught to love God. And there is some love there because God makes us in His image, but we live in a fallen world. And so when we begin to grow, if we're not careful, it is a battle against good and evil. You've heard that, right? The light side, and for you Star Wars fans, the dark side. It is a battle. But it's a continual. And God speaks to us because He loves us and He draws us. You know, as a kid, it was something that I would see, but it pretty much makes sense, right? You got the little angel and the little devil, and the one's telling the one guy what to do in this ear, and he's telling the guy what to do in this ear, and there is a voice. Sugar Hooper used to say it's like feeding a white dog and a black dog. Whichever one you feed the most is going to be the biggest. Whichever one you follow, whichever one you listen to and follow is going to be the one that directs your path. These people had fallen into that shape, and now here they are. And I said here a while back, but could you imagine? Could you imagine? How many of you, you don't have to answer this. I'll just say to you, I had kidney stones once. And I laid on our kitchen countertop on my stomach like this through the night to get rest. I could not rest in bed. I could not rest in the chair. I couldn't rest on the floor. So I laid across that counter and tried to rest. And the next morning, we lived in Myrtle Beach, and the next morning, Teresa says to me, are you going to go to work? And I said, I don't know if I'm going to go to work, but if I'm not, you need to. And so you go on, and I'll be okay. She went to work, and I went to the ER. I drove myself down there, and I walked in, and they said, what's wrong with you? And I said, I think I got a kidney stone. They said, well, we'll check you out. Well, they did everything they need to do. They come back and said, congratulations, you do. Here it is. Here's what it looks like, and here's what you need to do. Well, I had people in my family had them, so I knew what you had to do, right? The regimen you had to do. But as I read this, I think to myself, they tell you calcium deposits can make up kidney stones, different things. It's like a little piece of sand. It crystallizes, and it just gets a little bigger and the bigger and the bigger it is, the bigger the pain. Can you imagine the kidney stones from him grinding this calf down and just grinding it into powder and strewing it on the water and making them drink it? Woo! Talk about the deposits they was having, huh? Take them babies to the pawn shop. Make earrings out of those things, huh? What a mess. And here's Moses, now in verse 26. Then Moses stood in the gate of the camp and said, who is on the Lord's side? Let him come unto me. And all the sons of Levi gathered themselves together unto him. Now these are the priests. This is the Levites. These are the people that God will have in control or in charge and position down through until the kings and all those. So here they are, the priests. But they come to him. And I'm going to jump down to verse 30. And it came to pass on the morrow that Moses said unto the people, ye have sinned a great sin, and now I will go up unto the Lord. Peradventure I shall make an atonement for your sin. And Moses returned unto the people and said, oh, this people have sinned a great sin, and have made them gods of gold. Yet now, if thou wilt forgive their sin, and if not, blot me, I pray thee, out of thy book, which thou hast written. And here's Moses in one instance saying, and said, okay, who's on the Lord's side? Come on, guys. Who's on the Lord's side? Come on over here. And so here they are. And as he stands and looks, no doubt he's probably trying mentally to process everything. He is probably one of my favorite sayings. I don't know. It's just something I got used to saying and I can't quit is, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Somebody pulls out in front of me in traffic, that's always kinder to say than anything else I would have said 40 years ago. Are you kidding me? Anything that happens bad. And Moses, I can only imagine, he stands and looks at these people after everything God has done for them. And the Levites come over. Some of those folks are over and they're on the Lord's side, and I can only imagine that Moses stands there and looks at them and thinks, are you kidding me? And he goes before God and he says, they've sinned. And God's like, you think? Yeah. They're a stiff-necked people. And Moses does something that this is why he is a type of Christ. He is an intercessor. If you blot their name out of your book, blot mine out too. Amen. Mm-hmm. It's like, if you kill them, kill me too. And God says, you know what, Moses, I ain't taking those orders from you. I'll kill anyone I want to. I'll do what I choose to do. I'm the one in charge here. Now you all just get back in line, and I'll deal with this a little later. It's like your dad saying or mom saying, get to your room, we'll talk about this later. What am I trying to say today? Who is on the Lord's side? We see the mess that they were in sin in Egypt. We can look at that and see that they just lived among people who live like heathens, and here God brings them out through deliverance, and here they are delivered, and they go right into some mess that God's people should never have been in the first place. You know, here's the sad thing. If I could wake you and shake you today and say to you, I think as Charlie had called Sherry and Richard kids, those kids, for all of you kids today in here, if I could shake you and say, if you could see what you're fooling with right now today could be the destruction of your family, you would straighten up and stop it.
Amen.
All of us that have any bit of gray hair, what does the gray hair make you a genius? No, it just proves you've existed for a long time. And if you've existed for a long time, or a fairly long time, or a little bit long time, and got gray hair and haven't collared it, along with that time, you matured, you watch, you learn. From example, if you touch a hot stove, you know it's hot, you don't touch it again. There are certain things you don't do, but occasionally there is this, let's throw the earrings in the fire deal. Let's watch the golden calf just walk out of there. Sometimes we just lose our senses. I can't understand that. How can somebody who's been in church for years walk away from God, walk away from their family, walk away from their church, and say, George, I don't understand that. I don't either. The only thing I can say is, yes, we've been forgiven, but we're still human. And you've got to watch where you walk in this world. Amen. Talk about landmines. They're all over the place. All over the place. You've got to be careful, because you may lose some of the biggest parts of your family walking through this world if you're not careful of what God says to you. Think of the men and women that sat today. We could look at them and we could pass a judgment and say, well, they wouldn't be in this shape if they hadn't have done this. Yes, but they did, and so there they are. But what got them there? They took a step. They took hold. They did whatever. If you don't want to be an alcoholic, you don't take the first drink. Amen. I don't care what Budweiser or any of those other commercials are on television. They look attractive. Sure they do. People say, well, they shoot those to a direct crowd of people. Yeah. Yeah, they do. To everybody. It's there. Boom. Try this. This will make you happy. Well, if you don't want to look back someday and see your life in a mess, keep your eyes on the Lord. Amen. Keep them on Him. I'm not telling you won't ever have a regret. I sat and talked to my mother the other day, sat across from the counter, and we talked probably longer than we have since I've moved back. Just she and I, we just sat and talked. And I said, Mom, I am her third child out of 4. I said, Mom, there are things, if I could go back and do again in my life, I would do them. I can't. There are things. I would take our daughter as a little girl when we dedicated her, and when I'd pack her around, when we could take her wherever. But I wouldn't have set her down so soon. And I wouldn't have left her alone so long as a father. If you're a father today and you don't understand that, let me say to you, wake up. If it's your child and you love them, there is nothing more important. And I could say I put God first in everything, and I could look and see there are times that God was allowing me to put Him first, but I still put other things in front of my family. And as a pastor, sometimes we suffer from that leadership mentality that, oh, what will people think about me? And I think probably for a time in Myrtle Beach, it was almost like, you know what, I am tired of living under this microscope of what Scioto County or Adams County or Pike County or the people I've pastored now for 25 years or so, what they think of me. I don't know that they'll ever understand me, but I know my God understands me. Amen. There are things, if I could go back and do again, I would. I would. If I could go back again and tell my dad how much I loved him.
Yeah.
Amen.
But I can't.
Right.
I go to his stone. I went to his stone before we moved to Myrtle Beach. And I said, well, didn't think I'd ever be here to say this. He said, you big dummy, he's not there. I know that. I'd come to visit and come home. And Teresa'd be somewhere and the kids would be, we'd be doing something, but I'd slip off. And I'd go over and visit his grave. And when we moved back here, 4.5 years later, we moved back here, I just walked up to his grave and stood there and looked down at it. And I said, well, I'm back. Here I am. I couldn't say, Richard, I'm home, because this world is not my home.
Amen.
I'm not home. Home is there. Am I going? Yeah. Have I made bonehead mistakes on the way? Yes, I have.
Yeah.
and you can put this suit on me or put me in a t-shirt. It doesn't matter. Look at me either way. I have been a failure in my life at times. But I thank God that he doesn't look at me and say, look, you've been a failure, you can't come in. But he looks at me and says, I know you were a failure. That's why I sent my son to die for you.
Yeah. Amen.
That's love.
Amen.
That's love right there. Yeah, I could preach all day, but you can't listen all day, can you? Who is on the Lord's side? The Hensons. I love the Hensons.
Yeah.
And I love the song that they wrote. Who is on the Lord's side among you? You guys sing that song? Yeah, you're going to have to sing that for me sometime. I love that. Who is on the Lord's side? And what? Only the preachers came forward. Only the Levites. Well, folks, it's important for us to realize we're on the Lord's side. We need to stand with him and watch against all the things that can lead us into temptation and astray from where we need to be with him. I'm going to ask you to stand. Now, we are going to take communion here in a few minutes, but I'm going to ask you to stand, and we're going to give this time for a time of prayer. If you're here today and you have a need, before we take this communion,